Hello, my name is Tobias, and today we're going to look at the composition of functions. And if we've got two functions f of x and g of x, we can make the following compositions. We can make the composition f of g of x and g of f of x. So up here, g of x is the inner function and f of g of x is the outer function. And it's the opposite down here, where f of x is the inner function inside the brackets, the big ones, and g is outside, so g is the outer function. So let's look at some examples. So example 1. Here we've got two functions. F of x is x squared, and g of x is 2x minus 5. And if we want to make this first composition down here, we have to regard g of x as the inner function. And that means that we take 2x minus 5 and put it into x's place up in the outer function. So imagine taking this function here and putting it into x's place up here, x squared. So if we do that, you can also imagine x being removed and this takes x's place. So because we've got two terms here, we have to put 2x minus 5 inside of brackets before we square them. So f of g of x equals, start brackets, 2x minus 5, ending brackets, squared. So this is the one composition, and the second composition is the opposite. So f of x this time is the inner function and g is the outer function. So this time we have to imagine putting f of x, this function, into x's place down here in the outer function. So that would just be like putting x squared onto x's place down here. So that becomes 2 times x squared minus 5. So we've taken this x and replaced it with x squared. That was our first example. Let's have a look at another one. This time we've got the functions e to x and raised to the power of x, and we've got 1 over x divided by x. So in the first composition down here, g of x is once again the inner function. So we have to imagine that we take our function, our inner function g of x, and put it onto x's place in the outer function. So we take 1 divided by x and put it onto x's place up in the outer function. And that becomes this function down here. So the composition of f of g of x equals e raised to the power of 1 divided by x. The other way around is g of f of x. So this time f of x is the inner function. So we have to take f of x and put it onto x's place down in the outer function. So we either remove, or how we look at it, x down here, and we put this onto x's place. So that becomes, this composition down here becomes 1 divided by e raised to the power of x. That was our second example. Let's have one more. This time we've got ln of x as our as the one function, and the other function is x squared plus 5 times x. So if we take the first composition once again, g of x is the inner function, so we take our function here and put it onto x's place in our outer function. So that becomes ln of x squared plus 5x. So we have removed this x up here and replaced it by our inner function. We can do it the other way around too, if we want to. So this time we take f as the inner function down here, this composition, and we put it onto x's place on all of x's places in the outer function. So we have an x here and we've got an x here. So now we take ln of x and put it onto x and x here. So that becomes ln of x squared, because we remove our x here and put ln of x onto it. And then we say plus 5 times ln of x, because it says x here, and now we have to put ln of x onto that spot. So that was our two compositions in example 3. Let's have another one. This time we've got the functions the square root of x and e raised to the power of 3x. And in the first composition, g of x is the inner function once again. So we take e raised to the power of 3x and put it onto x's place in our outer function. So that becomes the square root of e raised to the power of 3x. So we have removed this x in the outer function and put our inner function onto that place. And the other way around, we take down here, this time f of x is the inner function, sorry. And we take the square root of x and put it onto x's place down here. So we imagine we remove x down here and we put the square root of x onto that spot. So that becomes e raised to the power of 3 times the square root of x. That was our fourth example. And the last one, this time we've got a polynomial expression up here, x raised to the power of 3 plus x squared plus x. That is our f of x, and our g of x function is minus 3x plus 2. If we want to, in the first composition, we regard g of x as the inner function once again. And then we have to take our expression for g of x and put it onto all of x's places up here. So imagine removing this x and putting this function in instead of our x up here. We do the same here and here. So now it says, if we take this composition, minus 3x plus 2 raised to the power of 3, and inside brackets, because we take away 1x and replace it by an expression with more terms, so we have to use brackets. And we do the same here, x squared. We take our expression g of x and put it onto x's place. That becomes minus 3x plus 2 raised to the power of 2, and also inside brackets. And we have the last one where we just replace our x here by minus 3x plus 2. And that is like this. So we could like expand all these brackets if we wanted to, but yeah, it's just for seeing the composition this time. So we have put our inner function onto all of x's places up here. The other way around, where f of x is the inner function, we just take our expression for f of x and put it onto x's place in the outer function. So this time it becomes minus 3 times this expression up here plus 2. And now we replace this x with our inner function up here. So we have to put it inside brackets because minus 3 is multiplied by x here. So we have to use brackets once again. Otherwise we would get a wrong answer if we didn't use any brackets down here. And then we have to remember our plus 2 because that's part of the outer function of outer functions expression. So that was it. 5 examples of the composition of functions. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.